Hey VC, the vinyl community out there. Welcome to Vinyl Talk with Tavis, and I'm Tavis. I'm going to start this video with a song. Now let's see if you can remember this. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood, a neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please won't you be my neighbor? Do you remember that? When I was a little boy, I used to love the summertime because that's when I could spend all day at home. My dad would be at work. My mom would be around the house, and I would have the TV all to myself because she would just be cleaning and doing whatever she was doing, and the TV would be mine. And I would keep it on Channel 13, PBS. It showed all those great programs like Zoom. Remember Zoom? And The Electric Company, and Sesame Street, and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. A few weeks ago, I watched the documentary about Mr. Rogers called Won't You Be My Neighbor? And it was fantastic. It brought back so many great memories. I hadn't seen that show in a very long time, I guess since it went off the air. And they showed all of the characters that were on there, such as, I had a little crush on Lady Aberlin. Remember the characters, King Friday the 13th, Queen Sarah, his wife, Lady Elaine Fairchild. She was really mean and vicious. And of course, Lady Aberlin and Daniel the tiger, just a phenomenal character. Watching that show was very transformative. And it was just me and my sister. She's 5 years younger than me. And we would both watch it at times. Sometimes it would be mostly me because she was much younger than I. And I would just spend just hours watching PBS. And that show was one of them. So to see the documentary was really cool. It brought back a lot of great memories. I learned a lot of things from that documentary. And if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. I knew that later down the line that Fred Rogers was an ordained minister in the Presbyterian Church. And his theology was based on just the simple phrase of love your neighbor and love yourself and accept people for who they are. And that is a great, great message. It's a great way to live your life. I think a few of the things that I picked up from this documentary was that it was during the time that President Nixon was in office and Fred Rogers spoke before Congress to keep public television afloat. And he had a chance to speak to, I think it was Senator Pastore, who he seemed like a pretty mean guy, and you really had to be prepared to be around him to speak. And Fred Rogers was just simply himself, the way he was on television, and he persuaded Pastore to go ahead and fund the $20 million that was needed to keep PBS on television. That was a great segment in that documentary. I always remembered that when there were some terrible times that happened, or tragedies, or national or international, that Fred would always, or Mr. Rogers, he would always talk about it in the segments of the show. For example, when I remember, I'm sure you do too, if you were born in the 70s, do you remember where you were when the Challenger exploded in space with Christy McAuliffe? She was going to be the first teacher in space, and she was going to present lessons, school lessons from space. And I remember being so excited, me and my friends being excited about that. And I remember that I was in line in the cafeteria, and we heard that the Challenger, the rocket that she was in, exploded, and everyone perished. That was a really sad moment, and Fred Rogers talked about how we deal with pain and situations like that, and loss. And I looked at that particular program and learned a lot from that. I wasn't around, I wasn't born in '68 when the show first started, but he touched on topics such as Vietnam. He didn't mention it directly, but he would talk about it indirectly. He would use his puppets to talk about the importance of peace and not having war around. He mentioned about assassinations. He talked about grief and divorce. It's just amazing what that show did and how it changed a lot of people's lives. My favorite show in general, and I remember it just so vividly, is when, I forgot the boy's name, but he was in a wheelchair and he was paralyzed, I think from the neck down. And he came to visit Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, and he could speak. He had a wonderful speaking voice, and he told Mr. Rogers how he got in that condition. And then Mr. Rogers started singing a song about how I like you just the way you are, and I remember being a boy and just crying watching that. And then it showed that segment, or it shows that segment in the documentary. And child, I cried again. I cried just like I was that little boy watching it back in the 80s. I tell you what, are there any shows like that these days? I don't think there are any shows like that these days. I'm having a little iced tea here. Not that I know of. I don't know. Everything is so fast. And those shows back then were just, I guess I'm at that age where my father was when he would look at the things that I was watching and say, man, TV ain't the way it used to be. TV or my mom or whoever I was around with, any relative that was older than me, and I was listening or watching or whatever I was doing, it was not like it was when they were children. And that's how I am now. And I see the pattern, I see the cycle, and I'm not ashamed to say that, yeah, TV is not the same, music is not the same, people are not the same. We all change. And you know what? I guess that's okay, because we're still here, and it's important for us to have our opinions. And even with that video that I just made previous to this one, called Leaving Neverland, My Thoughts, there are so many comments. People have so many opinions. And I believe at this point that video has 15,000 views. I would have never thought that me just sitting down and talking about that would have that many views. I am just astounded. And people they're arguing, they're with me, because my whole idea was that I felt like I just didn't know where I stood with that video. But I'm digressing here. I don't know why, but I don't mind. However, I'm now talking about Freddie Mercury. No, no, I'm talking about Fred Rogers and how he dealt with children and the things that he promoted in his show. Just two different things, you know. And I'm just happy to talk about the good that people do in life. And Fred Rogers was one of those people. I've digressed, and I don't care. I'm just going to tell you like it is. I'm going to tell you how I feel. And that's okay. We all have opinions. One of the great things in that documentary as well, and I'm going to end it with this, at least on that documentary, is that Officer Clemmons, I never knew this. Wow. He was gay. Or he is gay. I think he's still alive. Yes, he is. He went to a gay bar. Someone told Fred Rogers that, hey, Officer Clemmons, or I think his real name is Francois Clemmons. Someone told Fred that he was gay. Fred was not too happy about it. And Fred said, no, you can't be going to these gay bars because we have an image that we want to keep up, so to speak. I'm just kind of paraphrasing. And so Clemmons apparently gets married or something, and the marriage doesn't last, and Fred eventually comes around and accepts Clemmons as he is. And that was a beautiful segment in that show. It shows how Clemmons felt when Fred acknowledged Clemmons and said, you know, you are who you are, and there's nothing that can be done, and I love you regardless. That was a beautiful moment. It touched me a lot. But watching that documentary led me to this. I had to get this. I went on eBay and bought this. Mr. Rogers, Won't You Be My Neighbor? And it has the opening song, It's a Beautiful Day in This Neighborhood. It has, just go ahead and look. I was so happy to receive this. And it's in wonderful condition. Just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful album. I love children's music because I am a music teacher. And it's kind of dusty, isn't it? Yeah, but I'll take care of that. It's just wonderful to teach children about the different ways that people listen to music, because most of them are just used to streaming. And when I show them albums like this, they'll say, oh, my dad or my grandpa plays those records, you know, or he plays things that look like that. And some children ask, what is that big black thing? What is that big CD? That's a teaching moment, a teachable moment. Okay, we have, I'm past a long time, but I don't mind. I'm gonna share some of my children's records that I bought recently, because I saw all these records and I wanted to have them because I remember them as a boy. Do you all remember Peter and the Wolf? Spoken or narrated by Sterling Holloway. Walt Disney did this. And it's just a great, great way to teach the children about Peter and the Wolf. There's a movie version of this, but I wanted to get just the audio version. This is not the same as the movie version. There's a difference, but it's still good to own. I think it's just a great thing to add to your collection. And if you have any children, and my children know that I love records. They know. Here's some more records I have. Kids in Motion. It has music recorded by Babyface on here and The Temptations. Just a mixture of music for kids to do movement with. That's a great album. The Story of Bach. It's just a narration with musical inserts about Bach, and it's just great to listen to. It was really nice to find that. This is really a great find for me. I was in a thrift store maybe a month ago with my mom and dad. Let me have another sip of my tea here. And I don't know if you all are familiar with Greg and Steve. Greg and Steve do children's music. And I found all 4 volumes of Greg and Steve, We All Live Together. All 4 volumes in their plastic seals. It wasn't sealed, but it was in their plastic sealing. In great, just mint condition. All 4. This is volume 4. This is volume 3. I guess we're just gonna go from 4 to 1. Here's volume 2. And volume 1. And songs like Little Sir Echo, I'm calling you. Hello, 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 hello. Won't you come over and play? Just great kids music. Wonderful music. I don't know if you remember the song from Kids. I don't know if you all deal with children. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you. There's a great morning song for kids. The Freeze. Now here's a game that's kinda neat. Just feel your body to the beat. And you can dance any way you please. Because you know it's called The Freeze. And the kids freeze. And when the music starts back, they start dancing again. It's just great. Just great music. I remember this specifically when I was in elementary school. I remember my music teacher, when I found this album, I had to buy it. And it was $1. Great condition. Great condition. I played it already. It has all these songs on there. I remember my music teacher would play the Hokey Pokey. You put your right foot in, you put your right foot out, you put your right foot in and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. I got to put some swing in there, you know what I'm saying? But this is a classic. I consider it a classic. Just great music for children that I use a lot. Do you all remember Captain Kangaroo? Wow, Captain Kangaroo. I remember him vividly. I must say the record is not in too good of condition. Let's see. Maybe this is. Yeah, I cleaned this up really good. Oh, yeah. That's great. I cleaned this up. And it sounds marvelous. Captain Kangaroo, that was a great show. I think that came on PBS as well. I'm just going to give you a few more, or show you a few more. Remember Marlo Thomas and Friends? Marlo Thomas and Friends. I remember her, and that's such a 70s. That is such a 70s look right there. I think that's the 70s. Yeah, 1972. Oh my, that's when I was born. 1972, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, I remember that. I remember that. Just a couple more. And here is the Sesame Street. I have a whole bunch. I bought these records. Sesame Street. Sunny day, sweeping the clouds away. On my way to where the air is sweet. Can you tell me how to get? You know what is? You know what's next? How to get to Sesame Street. Phenomenal. I'm so excited. I'm just so excited. I don't even want to stop. Well, I don't know. I like this a little bit. Mickey Mouse Disco. I liked it. I think I bought it more so for the novelty of it, but not because it was really, really great. But it has Disco Mickey Mouse, Welcome to Rio. You can see. It's okay. Let me show you this. I'm so excited. Bert and Ernie sing-alongs. Fun. Very fun. Very fun. Here's Sesame Street Disco. I got that. Remember the Chipmunks? Oh man. It doesn't have Christmas Time is Here. Christmas time is here. This is just the regular Chipmunks, and it's punk music. It sounds all right. Another classic. Mickey and the Beanstalk, the complete story and all the songs with the original cast. I don't think I've seen the movie, but I have listened to this, and it's great to hear. Great to hear. You know, I think I have seen this. As I see the pictures on the back, I think I have seen this. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. Here is Walt Disney Presents Peter Cottontail. I'm just showing you everything. I don't mind how long it's going to be. I'll edit it and make it work. I don't care. I think we need to show our vinyl. That's what we are all about, right, vinyl community? And this all stemmed from buying the Mr. Rogers album. This is a tap dance practice record. And I haven't listened to this yet, but I suppose there's people on here teaching you how to tap dance. I had to get that. I don't know why. This is interesting. This is a Sesame Street record called In Harmony, and it has all of these wonderful artists who contributed their time to record songs here, such as the Doobie Brothers, James Taylor, Carly Simon, Bette Midler, Al Jarreau, Linda Ronstadt, George Benson. And I listened to this. It sounds really good. I'm really proud that I have this. It's really cool. In Harmony. If you're into music education, you know about, or I would suggest that you know about Ella Jenkins. She's an African-American woman who just committed her life to teaching children traditional folk songs and African-American songs. And this particular album is called Nursery Rhymes, Rhyming and Remembering for Young Children and for Older Girls and Boys with Special Language Needs. And it's just an awesome album. This album is in mint condition. Mint. How much did it cost? I bought it in a lot of albums altogether. I think there were like 20 albums for $20. So I bought the whole lot. Annie. It's a hard knock life for us. Tomorrow, tomorrow, I love you. Tomorrow, you're always a day away. Ooh, ooh, yeah. I wonder how she's doing today. I wonder. I loved this movie, and Carol Burnett was a scary broad in this movie. Was she in this movie? Yes, she was, and so was Bernadette Peters. I remember that movie. Yes, I do. Great, 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 great soundtrack. And this lovely man, he passed away recently. He passed away, was it last year? What's his name? Daddy Bucks? Daddy Robucks? What's his name? I forgot. Lord. I know it was Bucks was in it. Daddy Robucks or Daddy Bucks. But let's see, a few more. I think this is it. Okay. This is some simple things. 12 children's stories. You know, it's good to hear that on vinyl. And here's 70 children's musical stories, games, and songs. 70. Let's see if that's true. Yeah. 70 children's musical stories, games, and songs. Well, everybody, due to me watching this documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor, and buying this album because of that documentary, I decided to just dive right in and buy a lot of children's albums. And I have them all around me, and I've been listening to them, and it's just been great. And my children love them. My students love them in the classroom. So I just wanted to share that with you. And I'll end it by saying, you know, as always, with music, be inspired and stay inspired. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Y'all have a good one. Take care now.